everyone, this has been Falcon's Media Corner back again with a brand new AK After I Saw review episode for today. This one's going to be on another film I saw last year in 2021, which this one I decided to review for today just for the hell of it, so I can get this out of my way, so I can just focus on upcoming releases for this year. So today's review I'm here to talk to you guys about is the 2021 action horror film based on the popular video game series, and this is a reboot to this film series and the 7th installment to the film series of this game series, and that is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. So this movie was directed by Johannes Roberts, the man behind the 47 Meters Down movies, as well as The Strangers Pray at Night and other horror films. And this was not directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. He's an executive producer for this film, and so in this reboot, this is basically set in 1978 and focuses on the first two Resident Evil games, in which we follow some characters from those games like Claire Redfield, Chris Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy, Albert Wesker, and a bunch of other characters, and we follow them, which they are formed as a team where they have to survive this whole zombie outbreak in Raccoon City. So that's pretty much the short and simple story, really, of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Before I get into what I did think about this reboot, I never really played the Resident Evil games. Most of my friends do play the games, but I feel like one day I should get into the mood where I feel like I want to play the Resident Evil games. I don't play much video games per se because I'm mostly a movie person, really. But I do love playing video games though. But I'm just mostly, like I said, a movie person, really. But I have seen the Paul W.S. Anderson movies. Well, the first movie I think is decent. It's not a great film. Most people tend to have different opinions on the first film. I just think it's a decent watch. But when it comes to the sequels, most people tend to have different opinions on the sequels. Apocalypse is sort of almost a bit of a guilty pleasure. It's nowhere near as good as the first film, but there are a few things I thought were fine in that film. But Extinction was okay. Afterlife I didn't like, and Retribution I wasn't a fan of, and the final chapter I think is, personally in my opinion, my least favorite in the Resident Evil film series. And so when I heard we were getting a reboot to this film series, I was pretty curious, thinking what this reboot can do what this reboot can do to the fans who are diehard fans of the video games. And I was pretty familiar with some of the faces in this movie, like you've got Chaos Scodelario, I think is how I pronounce the name. She's been in a few things here and there. You've got Robbie Amell, I think he's talented. And you've got Neal McDonough, I've seen him in a few things here and there as well. I think he's talented. And the director, I haven't seen the 47 Meters Down movies. I know, but a few of my friends don't really like those movies. But I have seen The Strangers Pray at Night, and that really isn't good of a movie. So I went to see this on the 8th of December last year at my job for free. I managed to get myself a free ticket for this film, which I still have. And I saw this in a pretty small screening for this film. There was quite a few people who have seen this film as well. So I'd like to say to my few cinema, thank you so much for helping me get me a free ticket for this film. And after seeing this reboot, I would say this reboot is slightly better than the sequels, but it's nowhere near as good as the first film. I found this film to be pretty much rushed and overall just disappointing for me. Now, I didn't flat out hate everything about this reboot. There are some minor positives I can say for this reboot. Like, the source material from the first two games was really close to being what the first two games were like. And it was pretty cool to have some of the characters from those two games, like Claire and Chris Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy, Jill Valentine and all that, Albert Wesker and all that. I thought it was pretty cool to have them in this movie, but the casting choices I thought were really rushed and they were kind of miscast here. But I did appreciate some of their developments, but the whole character development for the other characters just felt really weak, and the acting in the film just really wasn't that great. I found the acting to be pretty much weak and slightly okay, but the stars I can appreciate for what they were given, but it just really wasn't that great here. And the creature effects, like the zombies and the other creatures in the film, were pretty decent enough, and they were almost really close to being like the games. They're not like they ruined the creatures and all that from the games. I kind of appreciated that, but they weren't incredible or anything. I just thought like the effects and the designs for the creatures were just pretty decent overall. But the action sequences and the scares in the film, there were some moments of that I thought were fine, But the rest of it, though, where it does tend to focus on like gunplay, violent action, like violent gunplay action and scary moments, I found them pretty dull, and it kind of felt flat, really. Like the action sequences, they are violent, but they're not as memorable, really. And the way it's directed, it's not like Michael Bay style or well, like Paul W.S. Anderson did for his own take on this franchise. It just felt like one of those directions I've already seen before that really isn't that good, and the action just kind of made me less invested really for what was going on, because the whole movie was pretty dull, and the scares in the film weren't even that scary really, and the storytelling here was another problem I had. While I did like some elements of its source material where it tries to focus on the first two games, I thought were fine. I did appreciate that. I thought again I thought it was fine. I did appreciate it, but it's really again the character developments here I thought were just weak. It's mostly due to the miscasting, like the whole casting choices were really miscast here. And again, none of the cast did not look anything like any of the characters from the games. I just thought that was mainly the biggest issue I had. Like the character of Leon, for what he does in the film, it wasn't like him really. I just didn't know what they were thinking here, and none of the cast for what they were given just did really good here for to be like the characters that that most of the fans tend to know and love from those games. That was really big of an issue, and there are some twists and turns in the film, which I didn't find that really surprising really at all. There was nothing really good for its story here. I just kind of found that pretty. I just didn't find anything good. But in the end, this reboot, I kind of wish this reboot would have been a little bit better than the Paul W.S. Anderson films. But don't get me wrong, I do think the first film's decent. It's just the sequels I'm not a fan of. I would say this is definitely better than the sequels, but it's not really saying much because this movie was just disappointing for me. But if you are a fan of this franchise, like the games or the movies, if you miss a chance to see this in cinemas, it is available to stream on any app of your choice. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this reboot overall. I'm going to give Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City 2 out of 5. Yeah, I just wish this reboot could have been a lot better than I imagined. This is definitely not a terrible video game adaptation I've seen in a long time. I did appreciate for what they were trying to go for, and again, it was really close to being the first two games. But there were from having a lot of problems I had, it was just disappointing. But I would say it's definitely better than the sequels that we already had. But this is nowhere near as good as the first film from 2002. That's the only one I'd say is just good of when it comes to this film series of this popular game series. But thank you guys so much for watching for my AK After a Store review on Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And let me know what you think of this reboot if you have seen this already. Did you have a blast with it, or were you disappointed with this film? So thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more reviews. And as always, this has been Fogan's Media Corner signing off.